There is something subtle about the way control operates. It does not always come through force or visible authority. It often enters quietly, shaping the way you perceive the world until it begins to feel natural. And when something feels natural for long enough, you stop questioning it. You begin to move within it, think through it, and eventually you start calling it your own understanding. The deepest form of control is not when your actions are restricted. It is when the very structure of your thinking is influenced, because at that point you are no longer being controlled from the outside. You are participating in it from within, and that is what makes it almost impossible to notice. Most of us grow up believing we think freely, that our opinions are our own, that our understanding of intelligence, success, and progress comes from personal insight. But if you pause for a moment and look carefully, you may begin to notice that the language you think in, the frameworks you trust, and the way you evaluate truth were all introduced to you long before you were capable of questioning them. In the 19th century, a British administrator named Thomas Babington Macaulay put forward an educational vision that was not about preserving knowledge, but about restructuring it in a way that served a very specific purpose. He spoke about creating a class of people who would remain Indian in appearance, yet begin to think, interpret, and judge the world through a completely different lens, one that aligned with British intellectual and cultural priorities. And over time, this was not enforced aggressively, it simply became the default system. What shifted was not just education, but the very definition of knowledge itself, because learning slowly moved away from the inner inquiry and towards external validation. Language became more than a tool. It became a filter through which opportunity was granted or denied, and systems of administration became more centralized, more rigid, designed for efficiency of control rather than continuity of culture. And in that process, something subtle happened. Dharma was not attacked directly, it simply stopped being part of the conversation. Over generations, this creates a particular kind of mind, one that begins to look outward for authority, one that hesitates to trust its own inheritance, and one that often feels the need to reinterpret itself through borrowed frameworks. You begin to see your own traditions as something to justify rather than something to experience, and knowledge becomes something you accumulate rather than something that transforms you. And today, that system continues, refined and modernized, capable of producing highly skilled individuals who can function efficiently within the world, yet often remain disconnected from a deeper understanding of themselves. You are taught how to process information, how to compete, how to achieve, but very rarely are you taught how to observe your own mind or how to question the structure through which you perceive reality. This is not about rejecting modern knowledge, and it is not about opposing any culture. It is about becoming aware of the lens you are using, because the moment you see that clearly, something begins to shift. And perhaps that is where Dharma quietly returns, not as a belief system, but as a way of seeing, where truth is no longer borrowed, but directly known.